Hi, welcome to quiltingwithlori.com. My name is Lori Dickman, and I'm starting a series of videos for my Fall 2021 Mystery Quilt. It's a pattern that I've designed that I've entitled Purple Passion, although you don't have to make it in purple. It can be done in any colorway you choose. I often like to make my mystery quilt patterns using my Speedy solution techniques so that you can use your scrap stash. And I teach these Speedy solution techniques to cut and organize your scrap stash in this book and in my lecture. And it basically takes you step by step through how to cut and organize all of the scraps in your studio and get them organized so that you can actually use them to make beautiful quilts. The step-by-step instructions are in here, plus 5 beautiful patterns, and there's a corresponding patterns book using those same Speedy Solutions techniques, and there are 12 additional beautiful patterns in here. So between the two, you get 17 beautiful scrappy patterns that you can use to use your own scrap stash from your studio. There's a link below as well, and you can find the special that I have on these 2 books. But today I want to share with you the different fabrics that I have chosen for my mystery quilt for this fall 2021 class. I have chosen yardage because some of you may not have scraps yet that are cut and organized and ready to go. So you'll be pulling yardage. So I'm going to show you the yardage samples that I have pulled for this quilt. I'm also pulling scraps from my stash. So I'll show those of you who know who already have your scrap stash ready to go, how you can pull those and get started on your quilt. So without any further ado, let's take a look at the fabrics that I have chosen. So let's take a look at the fabrics that I've pulled from my quilt studio for this quilt. As you can see here, I've pulled some yardage and I've also pulled scraps. And from my yardage, let's take a look at that first. I have pulled darks, lights, and mediums. If you're going to use yardage, make sure you have 2 different mediums. That will be very important for the second block that we'll be working on. We need to have that contrast with 2 different mediums. But I've pulled a purple dark, a light lavender batik for my light, and I've pulled these 2 mediums. This, I really love the fabric with this blues and the salmon, and then I pulled the other salmon. So these work out well as mediums. This particular fabric could, in fact, be a dark for another quilt, but because it's being used in this combination, it's definitely going to be a medium. So these will play with one another in the medium as we work on block B. So this is what I've pulled for my yardage, and you'll find on the PDF that is attached, you want to pull that and print it out. It does give you the exact requirements of yardage and as well as the size scraps of each value that you need. And I have actually cut my different values, the lights, mediums, and darks, into the appropriate size squares for this particular quilt, as you can see here. Now let's take a look at the scraps that I have pulled. What's wonderful about using your Speedy Solutions scrap stash is that all of the squares have already been cut and they're in bins waiting for you to pull them to start sewing. So here is a 2.5-inch bin, and I simply make sure I mark my bins all around the container so I can see it on the shelf as to what's inside. These are all light 2.5-inch squares, and for this pattern you'll notice on the PDF that you do need 50 light 2.5-inch squares. You also need 50 dark 2.5-inch squares. So from my darks container, I simply went in and grabbed a stack and did the same with the lights. So I've got what I need for the 2.5-inch squares for the lights and the darks. I also needed lights in the 4.5-inch size, so I went to my correct bin and gathered those. And then I also needed 5-inch mediums for this quilt, so I have those in the mediums. So everything I need was already cut and waiting for me in my scrap stash bins. So I have everything that I need for the quilt itself, other than the border. I haven't pulled anything on the border yet, but you'll see that when I get to that step in the mystery quilt. So I hope you'll join us today in all of the following videos that I'll be showing you regarding each and every step. Another option that you might want to consider, since it is fall and since it might take you a few weeks to get this quilt finished and then quilted, maybe a Christmas theme would be great. And if you want to pull Christmas fabrics from your quilt studio, just make sure you have a dark Christmas fabric, a light Christmas fabric, and 2 mediums. As long as you have all of those, you should be great. You should be good to go for your quilt. And then of course they'll also be cut into the appropriate size squares, the same as we have here for the scraps. So in our next session, I'll be showing you how to put together Block A. I hope you'll join us. Don't forget to follow the links below to my website. On my store, you'll find information on my Speedy Solutions Techniques book as well as the Patterns book. And I will be posting in my Mystery Quilt blog every week the different steps involved, from the introduction with fabric and supplies all the way through the borders and getting the quilt completely pieced together. So don't forget to keep checking on that on a weekly basis, and you'll be able to pull down what you need in regards to PDFs as well as videos. And I look forward to seeing you next week.